So we're highly focused on solving domain spoofing, and we basically have a product that I'm going to show you. And essentially what we do is we give publishers an identity. And I'll walk you through the product, the problem, and then essentially show you what ad ops would do to actually solve that problem, and walk you through the full solution and be very specific. So when I started building a company, we were trying to figure out how we would give. We looked at it from a supply chain perspective, and we're like, okay, well, if everyone has a wallet, if you imagine the whole SSP landscape and the DSPs and the publishers, if everyone had a wallet, how would they pass around a transaction ID, right? Because you would need a common transaction ID in order to tie a campaign ID and an ad ID to the actual rendering of the creative, right? So instead of, and we still think that's really important, but instead of trying to attack every single platform in the ad ecosystem, what we did was bookend the ad ecosystem by working with the publisher and the agency and giving the publisher an identity, right? And so I wrote this. So one of the problems in web browsers is that if nested within iframes, you can't really. There's a security model where you can't look outside of an iframe. So I ended up writing a browser to show you kind of the complexity of the ad ecosystem, so that you can see the problem that we're trying to solve and why it's so important. So, so this is the problem, if you will. So this is a custom browser to kind of just draw out what's really happening. And you have to write a browser because of all the viewability and everything that takes place. It'll end up firing pixels based on when you're scrolling and stuff like that. So if you see here, if I start to scroll down, you'll see more pixels start to fire here. So if you look at that chain, right? So the center here is just where the root of the requests. But all of these little snapshots are little data pixels, right? These companies, DoubleClick, Adobe, right? OpenX. This is iframes, MediaNet, calling Rubicon that calls Rubicon. It's pretty complex, right? And I can show you some. Just give you one more example. It doesn't look like that's working. But anyway. I think you see the complexity. So essentially, let me just kind of draw out what we do. So when a web page actually loads, what's really happening is that when you go to, let's say, CNN or New York Times, that's actually going to what they call a content delivery network in some cases. But in other cases, that actually goes to the CMS platform, depending on what version you're using. But in order to solve the problem, you can't actually put any type of security inside of a web page by itself, because somebody can just take the JavaScript and put it on another page. And so we had to really work on a solution that established keys using the public and private key of a wallet by digitally signing the pages, and also looking at as much information as possible to create unique fingerprints. And so when a web page actually loads, think of our solution as like having a digitally signed package at the top of the page that has a set of keys. And no one can co-author that page unless they have a creative that can unlock itself with those keys, right? So we wanted to be very precise about when a creative was going to display within a page, or when a video was going to actually play within a page. And we wanted to do that with cryptography. And so that's the identity component, or the wallet, if you will, what we use it for in this stage of the platform. And I'll keep walking you through what that means and where we actually put the data. So I'll log into the platform now. And this is, of course, demo data, but what you'll see is this is actually really in production. You can use it today, and get started tomorrow if you decided that you wanted to use the product. So essentially, to continue to frame the problem here. Let me just get in here. Okay, so this is actually vast. So I'll show you the video piece of it first. But in order to frame the problem, remember we're bookending the advertising ecosystem. We've established cryptography, digitally signed package at the web page, and now you have a page that's looking at a set of keys. So if you did nothing else, everything works like it works today, except that you have a digitally signed package. On the agency side, what you're really going to do on the agency side, the typical workflow is that you work with an advertiser, they give you the media assets, you upload those media assets into a DCM or DFA, and you take that ad tag and you put it into a trade desk or you put it into a DBM to find your audiences. That's the typical workflow. But in the case of domain spoofing, what you're trying to do is you want to ensure that that creative that the bidders deliver or any platform delivers never delivers on a spoof domain, right? And the only way to do that without a probabilistic approach is a deterministic approach using cryptography, right? So in order to solve that problem, essentially what you do, you add to the agency workflow, at least for now until we integrate into DSPs, is that instead of taking that tag that you would have gotten in DCM or DFA, you submit that into our platform and you select the digital signature for the publisher at 3 levels, at either a publisher level, a deal ID level, or a marketplace level, right? Because you don't want your buying teams to go select every site they ever wanted to deliver to and try to digitally sign all the tags. So what you want to do is create a marketplace level where you hit one checkbox and you digitally sign your tag. So what that means is, let me actually go to another receipt here. So what you're seeing right here is the original tag that you would have gotten on the advertiser side, right? And essentially, this is the digital receipt. So instead of scheduling this tag inside of your DSP or any platform you're using to deliver the creative, you're actually going to be using this tag, which is a digital receipt. So think of it just think of an envelope, and you're putting the original script tag inside of it, and you're closing it and sealing it. And no one can view what's inside of that envelope unless they have the corresponding keys to unlock it, right? So what that means is when that tag lands on the actual publisher site, if all the keys match to co-author, then it opens the envelope and displays the tag like it does today. So that is exactly how RTB works, right? RTB says, here's this dynamic tag, you won the bid, dynamically write it in the page, right? Well, this is the same thing, except it has security wrapped around it. So it'll never display in the page unless you unlock it. So the two things that happen are, if you have the keys, awesome. You get real-time reporting of all the verified impressions. It's impossible to domain spoof. It literally can't happen. And if you don't have the right keys, it just takes all the data and it sends it back to the platform. So we take the same public and private key once the transaction happens, and we submit that we use Hyperledger. So we were going to go public with the data, put it in Ethereum, because most people talk about speed, but all you do is aggregate all of the data and then batch it and put it into Ethereum. So we don't have a speed problem either, right? So we use the identity public and private key component of blockchain to solve the identity problem, but then we also use blockchain to submit all the transactions. So anyone can host a peer if you want. So so that's that. On the advertising side, of course, we have the reporting aspect that says whether it's valid or if you have ad alignment errors. And then, of course, we have analytics that go with it. But underneath that valid bar, there are tons of errors that can happen, right? One is you just don't have the keys, right? Others are like if you're in a mobile device or you're in any other device where your IP changes, or you're seeing a bank of IPs that are changing, or you're nested within an iframe, like we can figure out whether you're inside of a stuffed iframe because of all the security keys that we have. We know that you have to unlock yourself with the right key or you're spoofed. So what we want to do is, we also provide these reporting options. So like if you want to get deeper into why something's happening, we give you the ability to go look into these reports and drag and drop dimensions in here and say, okay, I want to know by browser, by operating system, where something is happening. So then you just come back over here, and then it'll give you the full breakout of what's actually, what browser it actually is, and what's going on to dig down deeper into the problem. And then, of course, you have your drill downs, right? So you can drill down into that data, and if you don't like that, you want operating system first, you kind of drag that, and then go back to reporting, and then you can see, how something is behaving, right? So we do that at the inventory source level, we do that at the user agent level, and all of this is, happening in real time. So I'm actually going to give you a demo and show you how it works for display and video, and then our SDKs are actually coming out in 3 weeks, which look a lot like what we just saw here. You have your own identity that we're going to be managing. So here in this place, this is actually a real campaign. So what happened here is that before this page ever got loaded, essentially it was digitally signed. So think of every page as being three-way authenticated. And then this ad itself is that digital receipt. So the ad itself knows how to call back into the crypto package and figure out if it belongs there or not, right? And then on the, in this case, this just shows you denied. And this is all happening in real time, but this denied, this is just a passback that says, in the case that you couldn't unlock the ad itself, I want a data pixel to fire, or I want a default ad to fire, or whatever it may be, right? And then in this case, go to the bad video, and if you were to play this, this basically uses VAST and BPaid, and it calls back into the crypto packages that exist in this page to figure out whether it should unlock the video creative or not. And then we'll just do the good one so you know that I'm not just making it up. And then here, if obviously this just plays the video. And then the last thing I'll show you is those ad ops folks, which we hold near and dear to our hearts because I've managed tons of ad platforms and it really sucks. So essentially, what we did was we built bulk importers. So essentially, if you use DCM, you can download the DCM creative spreadsheet and then upload it into our platform. And then what we do is essentially you would select yourself as an advertiser and then do batch alignments on a marketplace level. So you'd have one button click, right? And then essentially you would attach the file that you downloaded from DCM and upload it into our product, and then essentially you have all digital receipts across the board on whatever you were actually managing. And then to make that better, we have bulk exporters that work with Trade Desk and DBM. So essentially you can go select campaigns or creatives or all the digital receipts that you have, and then export them and then up into Trade Desk or upload them into DBM. So what we're also working on is just integration so you don't have to log into our UI if you don't want to, right? So that's it. And essentially, we have a full solution that protects publishers' identity. On the publisher side, the reason why they would use it is because essentially on the publisher side, they know how much revenue they're losing, right? And here's why we know that. Because we bookended the advertising ecosystem, we know that once uniques are spent on a domain spoof site, on an audience that they didn't intend to deliver to, it's never coming back. So, but using our platform, we would never deliver it. So therefore, the unique would always be spent at the appropriate site. Publishers would always get the money that they're losing today. For advertisers, it's virtually impossible to deliver to a domain spoof site, ever. That's it.
We have room for one question.
So, aside from this, what would you say your sort of bullets on why you would use this instead of like ads.cert?
It doesn't work. Go use it today.
Well, I thought the big issue with ads.cert had more to do with adoption.
Yeah, no, so look, I was just being funny, but the thing is that, I don't know, I mean, I'm at the IAB, so I'm trying to word my word, I mean, oh yeah. So look, at the end of the day, ads.cert was based on a mail protocol, right? And, you have to facilitate a transaction ID. Right? And that transaction ID, if it's not unique every time, then it can be spoofed. It's susceptible and known documented for replay attacks. And so, in a sense, if there's no, so in the world where you have a mail server, you can control the transaction ID because you're responsible for sending the mail out. In this world where you have to broker the digital transaction to a SSP or DFP, that's a different game. You no longer own your mail server, and you just gave away your digital certificate. So now it becomes a little bit gray, right? But I'm in favor of anything that's solving the industry's problems, and I'm in favor of anyone trying to make the world a better place. Because I'm from Colorado, where everything's green. Right? So.
Can I have one more question while we're getting set up on the next?
Just a question about DSP adoption.
Yeah.
Do you think, from a business perspective, that they're pretty clearly you've done some stuff with Trade Desk, but like other DSPs, do you think they're motivated to solve domain spoofing, or is it for them it's just like more volume to the platform and?
Yeah, I mean, so the integrations for DSPs is just for the ad ops folks, so they don't have to log into another UI. Yeah, it just makes it easier. We don't actually need to integrate with any DSP because it's at the creative level. So anyone that wants to co-author a page just goes and encrypts it, right? And it ensures it'll never deliver to anything that doesn't have the corresponding keys. And that's what we love about it is that what we love the most about it is that it's virtually impossible. It's not a probabilistic solution, right? It's virtually impossible to unless you have the keys, the creative will never be unlocked, right? And that's what we love about it. And the other thing is, it's not post-campaign, right? If you decide that you want to block the creative, you can block it. Like, it'll happen in real time, right? If you decide you just want a reporting aspect of the platform, then you can just click a checkbox that says always display the ad whether you're sure whether you verified it or not, and then you can go through reporting and then see that either we have coverage and we know you're 100% verified, or you don't, and it's kind of like, think of like a little warning sign that says, we don't know, right? And so it just blocks in real time, and that's the thing we like about it the most. Oh, one more thing, in case you're an ad ops, because we care about you. You don't have to actually, when you create this creative and you encrypt it, you don't actually have to say, this set of creative goes to Passport, and this set of creative goes to DVM, because they don't have coverage. You do the same flow for everything, because we'll always display the creative if you want. So it doesn't, you don't have to have unique workflows. Is that it? Thanks for the time.